What's the purpose behind the marketing plan? You excite, you educate, experience, and engage. Let's do this, right? Let's do this and let's have fun with it too. To my first-time listeners, thank you for joining the show. I appreciate you being here. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Marketing with In-Depth Podcast, where I'm your host, Nathan Webster, and I'm excited to chop it up with you today. But I'm not alone. I'm with one of my new podcast besties, Amanda Farley from Aimclear. What's up, Amanda?
How's it going? Thanks for having me. Super excited to be back.
Yes, this is kind of like part 2 of we don't know how many parts we're going to create because it's the gift that keeps giving.
One of the beautiful things about the evolution in the industry right now.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So, all right, for my first time listeners, I don't want to negate that you came onto the show. I don't want to negate the fact that your feelings might be need to be heard because I appreciate you. And for my world, I mean, this is like when I always am impressed by like my worldwide listeners from all around the globe that continue to come back. Thank you for tuning into the show. And I know you are doing, like right now, if you're listening, you're definitely looking for tips. So today we are talking about doubling down on AI. So if you haven't already subscribed to the show, go ahead and do so. Share it with a friend. And we want to hear from you. So please give a review and rate if you can. Please and thank you. So let's get started. Amanda, all right, now let's talk about how we're doubling down on AI because I think it's beyond the wild, wild west. We are in the industrialization phase of AI.
Yes. And I think, what's important to note, and I always, anytime I, talk or teach on any of this stuff, it's like AI is not new. I think that's like the first thing. It's just now open more to direct to consumer and public and,
Right.
but when we think about machine learning and even like how our Alexas work, like all that stuff still bakes a lot of this tech right in it. So it's not new, but it is here and it's definitely here to stay. And I think what I'm
Yes.
seeing right now in businesses is like we see good use and then not so good use sometimes of AI. Like that's a real thing. So I know at Aimclear we really put a good focus on like training our clients to make sure they're using it properly. And even thinking of internally, we do a lot of lunch and learns on some of the latest stuff and compliance and what to do and not to do and not to plug certain information into certain tools and all of that. So it's definitely an ongoing initiative internally and externally for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to this is not new. If you have a smart device at home, from an Alexa to a HomePod, you've already been using this sort of AI. It's just been very dumbed down. Now there's a whole lot more that you can dig into. And so please do not think of like, oh, I don't use AI. You've been using it if you have been using Alexa or Siri. It's
Google
just
Maps.
Google, right? You've
Everything.
been using it. Don't say, "Oh, I don't use." I can't say when people, "Oh, I don't use it." No, and this is where like voice search has been AI. You just haven't been. Photo recognition is AI.
Just gave me a
Anyways,
flashback there when voice search was all the rave when that first came out, and that was like all the rave, and it was just just gave me flashbacks of like mid 2000s there.
that's just one of, and I riffed a little bit too long in that because this is I want you to talk, but this is where when people say, "Oh, I don't use it," no, you've been using it. We just haven't put it under that bucket yet. So it's here.
Or if people are using, just the basic, chat GPT interface and, oh, I use it to help write or research, right? And it's like there's so much more you could be doing to help the business. So, and I think right now it's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose with like the news articles. So sometimes it can be like overwhelming,
Oh,
or it can feel
yeah.
overwhelming to try to keep up because it's literally every single day 365 there's like new stuff being talked about and coming out. But I think really if as a business, no matter which stage you're at, if you are in that like seed round trying to get off the ground, you are in how do we get from series A to series B, if you're a small private business and trying to really just maybe create some more efficiencies, keep up with the competition, things like that. There's a lot you can do when you look at marketing and sales and how you better use tools like AI to really grow and enhance your business. And one of the things we were talking about in prep, I want to make sure I mention is, I don't think it's like, oh, ChatGPT came out, let's fire our whole SEO team. Like that was the most ridiculous thing we saw so many brands do. And I feel like so many of them now are like kicking themselves because of all of the changes that have happened within Google. And
Oh my
I've
gosh.
seen more SEO requests in the last 12 months than like just SEO only or first requests because I think of mistakes that people made in that arena in the early days of ChatGPT coming out.
Oh my gosh. And on a side note to that, when it comes to SEO, I mean, look, SEO will always be the case. This is not 2000 where you can have this SEO and you're going to land on the first page of Google. That's not how SEO works today. And on top of that, you now have to SEO because if you don't already understand that there is a new compliance when it comes to accessibility for websites, that that is part of SEO too. So, like you said, when people say, "Oh, I don't need a SEO anymore," or "I'm just going to use ChatGPT," this is going to be very painful for you. Just get out of the denial.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, from my seat, from like the strategy side of things and research and all of that, like I'm still using, right, all of our digital marketing favorite tools, right? So whether that's, SEMrush or Moz or SparkToro, whatever, I'm using all of the normal tools we would normally use. But then I'm taking that and helping create, okay, what are the themes, giving it like my client brief backgrounds, uploading my meeting transcripts. And it's helping me get to kind of the meat to focus in faster of what really matters. Like, I only care about transactional terms. This is the market we're going after. We only want to do this. So I'm really using it to help me take all of the things I normally look at as a full integrated marketer and really boil it down to like, where do we get started and how does that going to look? So that's been super helpful. Um, Also, like, and you could do this for your customers as well. Obviously I'm thinking like agency side, but I've been training like AI agent bots for each client. So feeding it like what the project is, the background, all that stuff, but then also
Mm.
like what their disc profile or communication styles are like. Are they a spreadsheet
Ooh.
person? Are they right? And then so anytime that I'm getting ready to do a follow up, I'll even just run through, okay, I need to send this over. Is there anything I should think about or formatting? And it always gives me really good stuff. It's great. So it really helps. And you could do that even when you think about your personas, right? So if you're, you really want to talk, maybe you're marketing to marketers or it's direct to consumer for restaurants, right? Like you can really craft training these things to be able to craft your content for them better and even just double check kind of what you're doing. I think one of the biggest things, which has been, I was joking on, okay, so last year in marketing, anywhere you looked, everything was, we've got AI now, we've got AI now. And
Mm.
this year, I feel like all the marketing I see is, we also still have humans. We also still have humans. And I think it's
That's
so,
important.
yeah, it's so funny because it's, yes, you definitely need human oversight, human input, proper training, understanding data compliance. There's been some things with, since AI really came out as, since really ChatGPT, things that we've heard, and I'm just like, ooh, don't put that in for like, why were you using that for this? And you see
Mm.
some things that from a compliance perspective just absolutely terrify me. So yeah, definitely make sure you're working with your legal teams are getting consult on like what to not put into AI too. I think that's just as important. Like,
you work with so many larger brands than I do, so I wouldn't even think of that because majority is like a mom and pop or a nonprofit or very small government entity that I work with. So um, they're not one. They don't have the same ad spend. They are not trying to do high, and not high, but early innovator product launch. So they're not pushing the envelope when it comes to that. So now you got me wondering, what are some tools for the different stages of you as a business owner or a decision maker should they be using?
Yeah, so we've been building some custom stuff, which has been a lot of fun, but there are some off-the-shelf
Ooh.
things too. HubSpot's got some great new tools within its ecosystem, which I love, which can help like repurpose content faster. It's again, it still needs human oversight because like the editing is still like needs a lot of work, but like from
Mm-hmm.
a hey, I need to just transcribe or turn this page into a downloadable or whatever. Like there's some really cool tools in there that I really like. Um, in the business development arena, seeing a lot with like SalesLoft. That's been a big one. I think even in like that business, yeah, business development's been one on like outreach, identifying prospects, who really should I be talking to, and the like. And you also see, I think, when this stuff is used poorly as well, but like where it's almost too looks auto generated. But when it's used smart, also integrated with campaigns, I think that's where we see a lot of big success. So it's like, okay, we know you came in from marketing, you went to a webinar or you went to a page,
Mm,
and there's a business development component, but then it also then ties
mm-hmm.
back into marketing. So it's really that integrated component. I would say, even for the small business, like I would look at what are those processes you're doing right now in your day to day that are taking up so much time. Um, I don't know if you have ever done. I'm trying to remember the official name of it, but it's like the grid framework where you kind of do the. It's the delegate and elevate. It's from the EOS model, but essentially it teaches you how to identify all the million and one things that are taking up all of your time that actually
Oh,
producing revenue, growing the business, all that stuff, right? And so in the that whole model is, for every little thing you do for a week, you just write it down and you put it in one of the quadrants. And like eventually you end up with this whole bucket of stuff. You're like, why am I spending so much time doing all these things? And some of those things are things like emails, right?
e-
Sometimes those things
email
are
calendars. Yep.
calendars, sending out invoices, right? Like analyzing spreadsheets, manually putting information into spreadsheets, like
Oh my
all of
gosh.
those things, even with the basic version of ChatGPT, can be automated a lot faster. And then there's a lot of tools as well. But as we know in the software space, it's, you can always try the new shiny tool, but like those costs add up when you start getting too many of them under your belt. But hey, if it's going to save you 8 hours a week, like it's worth
That's a
it.
game. That's a game changer.
It's a game changer for your business. So yeah, in marketing, I think, it's a lot on the research side, and, we do a lot in spreadsheets, right? It's like what what keywords are performing in ads, like even on account audits, like I'll do mass CSV exports and then
Mm.
I'll upload it and then kind of ask it for the things that I need and want. But yeah, ChatGPT obviously is a big one, but even tools like Jasper for copywriting can be kind of cool. And you obviously have to be careful with like AI checkers and, things like that. And but I do feel like you can even have you like from a content perspective, have it do the outlines and then you put the meat in, right? Like you still
Right.
do that
Right.
human piece, but have that outline. Or if you need to, I just did this morning where it was just even like a brief. So maybe it's the business development team that then is taking it to, sales. It's like if you can expedite creating the brief, putting together the background data, and now that takes you 10 minutes instead of an hour, it's a huge win. So, yeah, there's a lot. We're doing a lot with like Midjourney, Dolly, the Adobe products. Obviously, my creative team loves. So yeah, it's really even when I think of like Canva, like more and more I'm seeing like Canva is like a
Canva's a
big
good
thing.
one.
Yeah, a lot of clients are using that, like even their internal teams, because it just helps expedite the process on stuff. Which is the same thing when you look at like a HubSpot, which obviously HubSpot's, it's it's getting harder, I think, for smaller businesses just from their like pricing. That's just my personal opinion, but most of the time, like we see a lot of people using that as well. So yeah, it just depends what you're trying to do, I think. But
What would
yeah,
you
we're building
say?
we're building a lot right now too, so it's crazy.
What would you say then when it comes to folks that don't have a team? Because you have entrepreneurs, and we are uh, stubborn. Let's just say when it comes to like
I,
we want to do all of it, but if you want to scale and be decent at bare minimum, you can't do it all on your own. So, do you have any recommendations?
yeah, so when I think of things, in that space too, it's when I think of things like social, right? Having these tools to be able to actually create your social posts, have that calendar already done, have that stuff preloaded into a system, have the images, created because you can even upload like, hey, here's all of my library of images, pull from here, right? And then create the social post. So you can do that where
Mm.
it'll even link into the images. And then depending on what, assuming you might be using like a social scheduler, because there are some free options there too. And then you just load it up and like, then, you're spending a couple hours maybe on an afternoon, but then you can kind of go hands free after that. So
The
there's
key
some
thing is
ways I
you
think
have to build it. What
you have to
is
build it. Yes, you got to dedicate the time to build it, but then it does more of that done for you kind of model after the fact, I think. Um, yeah, just anything with spreadsheets. Honestly, like if I just think about all the things anyone could be doing with
mm,
spreadsheets, that's probably a good place
oh
to
my
start.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my
So that could
gosh.
be invoicing, that could be like there's so many things, and I think that's what makes it hard for people to figure out where to start. But that's why I like the delegate and elevate exercise, just because it does kind of help you identify like those little things. But right now, like even in my own calendar, which is always a rolling ball, you can ask my team; they'll tell you it's crazy. But I've been testing out different ways to even do like how I'm booking, how I'm pre-scheduling, setting up different rules. So like if I send a certain link, depending on what it is, there's different rules associated with it. But that saved, so yeah, it took me an hour the day that I set it all up. But then in real time, it's like I just send the link out, right? So it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have to look at it. Because there's certain style of things, you don't like if you've got a larger project presentation, ideally you don't want to do that like 4 o'clock on a Friday, right? So you can like set it up where it's like, no, these are for this style of work. This is the like my core working hours. This is the kind of blocks or buffers I need. It even when I think of like hair salons, right? Like I think of like,
Mm,
you know, even if you're a small like hair salon or barber shop, right? Like some of those like booking tools and stuff can save a
mm.
ton. And even just with like email correspondence, like it's that stuff used to be a full-time job and you can now kind of get that into a lot less time. And it doesn't mean get rid of your people. It just means like, hey, now they have time freed up to do other things. So it's good.
I would also say, when it comes to socials, when we first started the businesses, golly, we cut our teeth in restaurants and food, and that it would be a game changer for folks when it comes to a strategy, like you said, do a photo dump. You have your menu, you have the times. You can categorize things, especially for your different avatars. People that you need to continue to get to have that repeat customers. Like it's an. I don't want to say it's a no brainer because I think it's more based around fear than intelligence. And then also, like you said, like this is not you continue to do on your own. Hire people to help you with that because this is outside your element of, let's just say, confidence, and it's not your skill set, which is totally fine.
Which even thinking about the restaurant biz, like if it was me and I just think about the spreadsheets, okay, what if our orders, the orders and expenses for the last let's say year, where did we maybe run out or have higher demand in certain? So I think of like Valentine's Day, you're gonna have a different
Mm.
demand of things, right? All that stuff. you'd actually be able to get to like really cool, I think, seasonal data and forecasting data based on what you've done in the past, right? Because one of the things in the food industry is like, different products. Obviously, like I remember when so my one of my first jobs in high school was at a pizza place, and like the cheese, everyone would freak out about the number, like the cheese, like don't use too much cheese because the cheese was like more expensive or whatever, But there's like a math, right, to like how much you need per pizza,
How
how
much
many
pound,
pies, right?
ounce? Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff. So for any restaurant, if you're like, yeah, I know I need to stock these certain items, like how much do we actually need? Were we behind? Did we have waste? Like, if you can even save a little bit of that waste, that could have a huge impact on your bottom line, right? So because you're not overbuying because you think, okay, do I actually need it and all that stuff. So even
Waste
in
and
that arena,
spoilage.
that's where my brain goes of like, how could I streamline my operations in that sense, and even for staffing, right, for like busy hours and stuff. I mean, I feel like that if I owned a restaurant, that's what I would do.
Well, and when you say that, when it comes to staffing, so immediately, and it's amazing our time goes so fast. It is amazing when it comes to just we talk about one of the lowest margin opportunity business out there that they can be cash broke before they even go out of business. So
Hmm.
like these are tools to where you don't have to suffer, but to each their own. I want to be able to put out this content even as we're speaking to help folks understand that you can work smarter, and it's not about like, oh well, this is the way we used to do it. You can still do it that way, just enhance it, make it better so it can show up in an Alexa, you can show up in a search.
And even on the nonprofit side, and this just because I know you said you work with a lot of nonprofits, so and I do a lot of philanthropy here local in the city of Detroit, and I with like the schools and teachers and all the things. And one of the things I think I've used it for a lot is identifying some of those partnership networks, grant opportunities, like I've been able to move a lot of mountains quickly by using that for research, to be able to get stuff funded. I'm working on this like really cool water project right now. We found a program that's going to fund the install of new like toilets and sinks and stuff for people that have older model stuff that's
Oh,
causing,
okay.
because it like increase. So because basically what happens is it'll increase water bills, and then people get their water shut off because all of a sudden you've got a $400 bill or whatever. So
Oh,
yeah, so I actually found a partner now, like a partner to help fund a program to kind of help with that problem. So, anyways, it was like but just as like an example, even if you're thinking about what you normally would do that you would do manual research, like any of the AI tools are going to be super helpful at like getting to that stuff a lot faster and then export it into a spreadsheet. And like it's great.
again, that's why the name of this podcast episode is doubling down on AI. And you do not have to be roadkill because it is like, and this could be another topic because we gotta we gotta wrap up. But I think this is also what's happening in the entertainment industry with Hollywood, where people are cutting the cord to cable and streaming is becoming the mainstream and UGC.
Uh-huh.
If Netflix is hosting along with Amazon hosting the Super Bowl, NBA playoffs,
It's
cable.
a wrap. Like, yeah, I think was it Peacock? I don't know, one of the last Lions games. I was at my friend, she doesn't have cable, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna buy the streaming app for the month that it's on." And I think it was Peacock. Yeah.
Yeah, Peacock. I think NBC owns Peacock, and that was kind of like one of their efforts. But it's like, and I don't want to give them too much love, but uh, HBO Max, when they had Game of Thrones, they said, and I forget the numbers, but they said once Game of Thrones, the first rendition, now you got the prequel, whatever you want to call it, um, that they said they saw a huge drop off, like anywhere, like it was like 20 or 30% of subscribers when Game of Thrones was no longer on there. So here's where Netflix does win, of where, and I will give it to Apple too, where you have to have originals and you can't just rely on one. Just
Yeah, and that goes back to, I think, creative, right? When you think about like true creative like genius of any show or movie or whatever, like, because even in marketing, I think that's what's going to win out. When you have super good content that people want to engage, that's got like, just because AI exists doesn't necessarily mean you should lean on just robots to do all the creative. Like, I don't think that's the answer at all. I
no.
think more than ever, some of that brand storytelling, creative thinking, like the real creative innovation stuff, like use AI to like innovate on the process stuff and to help, get you organized. But on the creative, like, don't discount your investment there, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to keep the attention. That's what drives brand loyalty. That's what, you know, all of that. So it's going to be interesting. Like a lot of the, because even with the AI changes right now, even when I look at Google and like how the traffic's coming in, and it's like, it's really it is more of a brand first. Like, did my brand come up? Am I going to have that where then they maybe come in direct? Like, it really comes back to that brand voice, and on all these other channels outside of your website, like so much of it is going to be happening, and it already is happening off the site. And I think, the zero click environment is just going to continue to be a thing. So that comes back to like having really good brand, really good content, really good creative that people care about. Like, that's going to be more true than ever, I think, just because now it is easy to just pump out a display ad, right? Like, that's the easy part. It's like, what is the message you're telling your consumer? Like, what do they actually care about? What do they actually want to engage with? And if you got crappy content on your app, who cares? Right?
Right.
Like it's quality. I think quality is what's going to break through. So,
Well, there are no more. I mean, there are click farms everywhere, and there's going to be AI click farms. But if you don't have great content where real people are using it, this is why real people do matter. You can have AI help you, but if real people don't use it, marketing, you need that. So, Amanda, before we go to, and I love how you said you dropped a dime in zero click environment. We have to come back to that.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, zero click, and where can that would be next episode? Where can the people find you at if they want to learn more or want to work with you?
Yeah, so you can always come and check me out, aimclear.com. Also, my LinkedIn, Amanda Farley. And yeah, those are probably the two biggest things. So,
All right, thank you so much for joining the show today. Again,
yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
absolutely. Y'all heard it first here on Let's Talk Marketing with In-Depth Podcast, where we are breaking down the ambiguity of how you can hopefully simplify your marketing strategy to where you can apply these tactics today. Again, strategy comes before tactics. Do not put tactics before strategy. So with that, if you haven't already left a review, please do so. Please share it with somebody you may know. It doesn't matter if you're a decision maker or a business owner. This is for you to make the best decision for your brand, because now we know it is game on. Amanda, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks.
Until next time, for everyone out there, I wish you nothing but the best. So dream big and Godspeed. I'm out. Hey, if you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please share this episode with others that may be interested in this topic. And also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch in the comments or social media networks. See you next week for the next episode.